I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. One of the things that I really loved about Pete Sands, a part of his music and his voice, is just he's so truthful and so unapologetic about it. Straightforward like an arrow, you will get the truth that you are seeking kind of personality. His music is beautiful, his voice is haunting. I mean, you really know that you are listening to Pete Sands. Um, what I love about this interview, there is a lot of hidden truth. There are just pouring out of Pete, and I think our youth needs to listen to this wisdom. He truly has inherited wisdom that he's just humbly sharing with us through the interview. And if you're fast enough, you'll catch it. This little hidden gems that he's speaking about as we are interviewing him. So please enjoy this interview. I think is probably getting to be one of my favorite ones. So listen and be ready to be inspired. Welcome to our second episode of Indigenous in the House. I am your host, Blanca Iris Acuna. Many of you know me as Kai, Earth, Spirit, and I'm bringing you someone very special in our Indigenous community. He's a singer, songwriter, producer, photographer, screenplay writer, and he has an amazing voice and amazing stories to sing to us. Please welcome Pete Sands to Indigenous in the House. How are you, brother? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. It's so exciting to talk to you. You have so many projects. You have done so many wonderful things for our native community and your own tribal nation. Um, I want to ask you the first question. It's like how how all this started. You as a child, do you had a dream to become a singer, and how that started and when that started?
Well, as a child, I always had a very, huge imagination. I was very creative. I think it's due to the fact that I grew up on the Navajo Nation, kind of, after some family tragedy, I was kind of sent to live with my grandmother in the heart of the reservation. And she lived nowhere near civilization. So it was just out in the middle of nowhere, her and I, and she was gone a lot. So I was basically home by myself for like a couple of years, 2, 3 years. So during that time, just a lot of living in your own head, as a child, I mean, 7, 8, 9 years old, and there's nobody around to play with, and you just develop your own imagination, and it's just started from that. And I used to listen to a lot of AM radio when I was a kid. AM radio was my favorite thing in the world, and on the AM radio, they used to have these old radio shows. These old radio shows would be like plays, and they used to have like news specials like from other countries, or they put opera on. So I would just sit there at night and just dial the AM radio, just go through all the dials, because we used to have an old cabinet record player. I don't know if you remember those. These
Oh, wow. Yeah, big ones.
Record player there. Yeah, I had a tape player in there, and I had the radio in there. And I was just, at night I would just go through the dials of the AM radio and just listen to all these specials that would come on. And my imagination would just transfix through that. And, comic books was a big thing too as a child. I used to get it from the library, from the school library. I used to get comic books from there. And also from my own culture. There's a lot of stories that my grandpa used to tell me about the culture we grew up in. And, I grew up going to ceremonies and speaking my language. I grew up speaking my own language first, then I had to be taught English when I got to school.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, I grew up in that very traditional, ceremonious environment. And I remember the first time, I wanted to be like somebody else. It's when I saw the cover of Johnny Cash's live at San Quentin, where he had a silhouette picture of him against the spotlight. It's just his outline of his face, his head, and his part of his body. And everybody references, Live at Folsom, which is a great album as well. But just the picture from that Live at San Quentin on the cover of the record, I was like, man, this is so cool. Then back in those days, you had records and CDs or tapes or cassettes where you could unfold the covers, and you could read the lyrics, the stories and stuff like that. And just reading those and just seeing where they would go. And it just films, comics, music, my own culture. I read so many books, man. I was a huge Louis L'Amour fan. So I read a lot of Western books. I've probably read all the Louis L'Amour books, which is probably over 200. So I've read all those Western books, and I was really into history. That's where it started from. I knew that there was a power to song. There was a power to music, even if it's not chanting or Native American music. Even if, like A Boy Named Sue or a Waylon Jennings song or Loretta Lynn song that had a story to it. There's a story behind those songs, and people felt it, and I could feel it, man. Going to revivals as well, seeing people freak out and dance and do all crazy shaking and falling over stuff that they do at revivals. And there's a power, there's a power behind music, and I knew it because I felt it as well when I would hear people sing, and I just knew I wanted to do something in that capacity. I just didn't know what until I got older. So yeah, that's where it started from.
So you have all this time, and back then we didn't have the technology that we have today to be distracted. So we had to use our mind and our imagination. So you have all this time to absorb all this knowledge through books, through music. When was the definite moment that you said, I got to do this? How old were you?
I was probably about 27, 28. My brother and I, Rufus, we used to go around. We used to go to concerts all the time because I was a truck driver for 8 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of that time I just listened to music, and I discovered people that I really liked, really enjoyed during my time, my era. So my brother Rufus and I, we would go to concerts because we love everything from country to rap to heavy metal. So I was when I lived in Salt Lake full time. I was trying to find my sound. You know, I was trying to find who I am. Like, what do I do, right? I started a band in college, and we were a metal band. And many people don't know that, but when I first got into music, my first band was a heavy metal band. So I was a heavy metal lead singer. But we went to all these concerts. Then I got to meet, and then I came across, crossed paths with Shooter Jennings, who's Waylon Jennings' youngest son. And we just started talking. I was a huge fan of his, and he's saying, you got a voice, brother. You got something. You got a presence. I can feel it. You got to do something. Like, there's something. I was like, I want to be. He says, why don't you just try being a country singer? I was like, because at the time I was doing a lot of open mics. I would just go to open mics and play any show I could. And he's just, every time he was on tour, and I would run into him all the time. And it was about when I was like 28, after I graduated from Weber State University with my bachelor's degree in criminal law, because my original plan was I was going to be a lawyer. So my first day at law school, I just didn't want to do it. I couldn't go in through the door. I couldn't go through my class. I just, like, what I had before wasn't there. And I went back and to the partner I was with at the time. Of course she was upset. You know, she's like, this was our plan. You're going to be a lawyer. You know, I was like, I don't want to do that. She said, what do you want to do? And I was like, you see that guitar in the corner right there, that acoustic? She said, I want to do that. She's like, you're freaking crazy. I almost said a bad word there. She's like, you're freaking crazy. I was like, I have to do it. And so that's when it started, was that moment when I decided to choose my passion over my path, I guess, path that I started on. Totally veered off. And I just kept playing and playing. I was still truck driving at the same time. I would go and play at bars and just go travel. I hit the road when I was like 33, I think. I hit the road when I was 33, and I became really good friends with a lot of musicians. You know, a really good friend of mine, Whitey Morgan, he really took me under his wing and taught me a lot. And I just knew at the time, because when I first started out, I tried to play on the reservation. I tried to play my music on the reservation, but people weren't really gravitating towards it because I think they didn't understand it. And also, you know, I don't know if you ever heard of res country bands, but reservation country bands are totally different from country bands off the res. And I was nothing like it. And I didn't want to be like that. So that's when I went off the res. I started going to honky tonks and dive bars, you know, touring through California, Nevada, Texas, to those type of places where people knew what I was trying to do. And because I had come up with, you know, like I said, Shooter, Whitey, a lot of these current country singers, you know, Americana kind of country rock bands that are coming through, that I knew that's what I want to do. That was my style. So at the time I think my time I was a little too early. I was ahead of
your time.
Yeah. And so I just kept being around like the Cowboys and the honky tonk, because they understood what I was trying to go for. Because I was more of a singer songwriter. And later on I got into the country rock end of it, on who we are now. But it takes time for people, especially if it's something different.
Okay.
And you're the only one of your kind there in that crowd. You know, you stick out. But also, it's great for that community, the Americana country rock community, to accept me and to be like, okay, we'll help you. And teach me things. You know, there's things I didn't know, which you learn a lot by doing it. And that's where it started for me. It was that initial reaction to either going to law school and being a lawyer, or following my dream, I guess?
I have an uncle that is a lawyer, and is very hard. It's a very hard career because as the laws changes, you know, you have to keep studying and keep going. But I do believe too that the musician's journey is harder because as a lawyer, you have institutions and places that you can learn and keep going. But as a singer, you have to make your way. There's no boundaries, there's no institutions to guide you through it. You have to find your voice. You have to find what you're going to sing about, what you're about. In your case, you have a very haunting type of voice. It's very different than what is out there in the commercial mainstream. Your voice is beautiful, but is so original that I don't know where to put you. I don't know if, you know, you can go with rock, you can go with country, you can go, you know, so many different levels because your voice is just, is so original. You can go whichever way you want. That's what I love about your voice. The fact that you are your own songwriter and you're singing, it becomes then personal. You know, like what was your first album? What's the name of your first album? And what kind of genre is it? What kind of music? For those who don't know your music career.
It's my first album was a solo album I did, solo acoustic album. It was called Dirt Dance Floor. I put it out surprisingly 6 years ago, and that's the only album I've ever released.
Oh wow. It's so
okay. It's strange. It's just so strange, right? That even the first album I put out, you know, like 6 years ago, people, it's just building because people are like, you know, your style was so unique at the time.
Mm-hmm. It still is.
And at that time, I didn't know who I really was. You know, I didn't know my voice yet. I knew I found something, but it was still in the early stages. Like, this is what I want it to be. This is where I'm headed. But I knew at the time I just had to get it, put it on tape before I forgot it. Mm-hmm. And so the first album is called Dirt Dance Floor. It's an acoustic album. I listen to it every now and then. Like nowadays, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. I should have done it. But now, you know, fast forward is we're going to finally going to release my second album with my band in March.
Awesome. And congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That music is a full band, so the whole band plays on it, and different people, just people I've known throughout my years. Some of them are going to be on it. But I found my voice. I found my style. I found my niche. You know, that I know where I belong. I know where to put myself. And, you know, when I first started, I still am a huge Johnny Cash fan, but I was a huge fan of the American recordings that he did with Rick Rubin, where it was just him and the guitar. And
acoustic.
Yeah, when I work with youth, these up and coming musicians, I tell them it's the ultimate test is you take away all this bullshit, all this effects, just you and a guitar on a stage. Can you do that? That is bare minimum. I said, if you can't even do that, how are you going to find your confidence? There's nothing to hide behind. When it's just you and a guitar, or you and a guitar player, or you and a piano player, if that's all you got, that's how you build confidence, because you don't have to hide behind anything other than just, you know, like sticking out your chest and saying, this is who I am. And I'm glad I started that way. I mean, a lot of artists start that way. I mean, I was on the road for 2 years, and I played so many places. And sometimes you play for like 30 minutes, sometimes you play for 4 hours, you know, at the time. And it it's a journey, like you said, and it's a journey that I would never want to take back, because it taught me a lot about who I am and how I am, where I belong in this world. And I think that's what we all search for as people, is where do I belong in this world? And I know where I belong now. And there's just so many people that are lost in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
we have to overcome so much, the trauma from our indigenous nations, the trauma that we suffer, that it's a chain reaction through the generations. We have to come from that, overcome that, and then try to figure out who we are and what we're going to do. By the time most of us figure it out, we are already on our way out, and we are already in our 60s or 70s for most people. The lucky ones, we get to have a glimpse through our childhood, and maybe in our 20s and our 30s, we decide to take the journey. And the journey of a musician is full of rejection. Anybody that thinks that the musicians can just make it and right away, very rare and few in between. And normally it's because they have long training, or they have parents that were musicians. But for people like you and I that don't have people helping us to figure it out, it takes a very long time. So where are you? I know you did a lot of work with the Indigenous community when COVID became really bad in your tribal nation, and you were, how you say, we were honored that you wanted to help you and the people that were working with you. You came out in Time magazine, am I correct? Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that experience, how that came to be. And
well, sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It was more of just a response. You see people in trouble, and your initial response is to help them. For some, not all of us, but for some of us, at the time when we saw this coming, there's a group of us here. I work with the clinic still on and off every now and then with the Utah Navajo health system here. But in the beginning, when COVID first was not here yet, we did a lot of studies. For us, it wasn't a question of, if it's going to get here, it's when it's going to get here. And so I came to the meeting with the mindset, like, a Native, Navajo nation already has, in Native Americans have the highest rates of, like diabetes, highest rates of respiratory issues, high rates of just a lot of health issues. And I said, if coronavirus comes here, it's going to kill a lot of people because of all these issues we're afflicted with, a lot of immunocompromised as well. There's a lot of that, and not just on the Navajo reservation, but on all the reservations, all indigenous communities, they face those things. And so my initial reaction is that we got to sort of, be proactive and find a way to start stocking supplies to help people. Like, what does coronavirus do when you get it? How does it affect you? Okay, so we need this. People will need these items when they get it, or if they get it. So for me, it started out just me. And when I first started the program, there were no other COVID programs. And so when I started, a lot of people who started their programs came to me asking me, how did you start? Tell me how I should start. I just gave them a couple of pointers, but, it really just started with me just kind of foreseeing where it was going to go. I can't say foreseeing, but it was just like, I imagined where it could go, how bad it could be. And I had the resources, and I knew the people that I knew from what I've done, I could do something big to help my community. And never in my life did I think that was going to, land me on the cover of Time magazine. I never realized that, because
it was not in your mind. Yeah. That was not the intention anyway.
No, Yeah, because I wasn't chasing that. That's not why I started it. I wasn't out there taking. The one thing that really bugged me was people who do things like this to gain a following. People who say, look who I delivered this to, and they take a photo of themselves with the families in the back. I'm like, dude, give them some humility, man. Have some humility. Let those people have their dignity.
Right. So you're doing this work. How Time Magazine got the work that you were doing, how that happened?
They just, earlier in 2020, they reached out to me to write an article for their magazine. And at the time, it was like at the height of COVID, we were like busy seven days a week, just rocking and rolling. But it took a couple of minutes out of my time to write the article they wanted. And this was around May that this happened. And the article came out, and is that a picture of me in there carrying a box? I'm like, oh, that's cool, And they just kept in touch with me throughout the year, just what I've been doing, just asking me, how things going. I was like, oh, things are going good. And in November of 2020, they're like, we're gonna send a photographer out there to hang out with you for a day or two. And I was like, cool. So she came out here and she hung out with us, and she just wanted to follow me around. And so I just hung out there for 2 days, and she was just, we got to know each other. She asked me a lot of questions about what I do, but that ended. And then like a month later, I was going through Instagram, just at night. I was looking through it, and I saw Time, because I follow Time Magazine on Instagram, and I saw a cover, one of their covers of Time Magazine. I'm like, man, that looks like me. I was looking at the cover. I'm like, yeah, that kind of looks like me. And I was like, is that me? And so I went and I clicked on the website, and it took me to the website, the link to the website. And I was looking at it, and sure enough, it was me. I was listed on there as one of the influential people of the year. And
that is so big. I mean, it's so big. You're being so humble about it, but they must have seen something that you were doing that it was extraordinary for that to happen. You understand, not just anybody end up in Time Magazine. It's a very prestige kind of magazine, but the work that you were doing is what is important, and obviously somebody was there to understand that, to understand what you were doing. Your nation got so hard hit by COVID, and my husband's nation, the Arapaho and Cheyenne nations, we lost a lot of people. It felt like we were going to a funeral sometimes twice a week, and just the heartache of seeing so many people leaving us so quickly, and not only the elderly, which the elderly, we expect them to leave soon. Most of them were very old, but it was just such a heartache, such an impact, such a continuous grieving. It took a toll on all of us, emotionally, mentally. Sometimes we didn't know if we were next, in the list. The fear for our children. If some of us have, have small children, so many children being left by their parents, the heartache, it just kept going on and on. How are you doing now as a nation? How is your people doing now? It has gotten better. Then now we got the shots. Are they taking the shots? And as an artist, how this has impacted you. I don't know if I'm asking the right question in the right way, but seeing so much heartache and so much, how this impacted you, your music, or? I know.
I think, one thing I discovered during the COVID wars was that mental health is very important. Self-care is very important, because when I first started this donation program, I started in the winter of 2019. I started by delivering firewood to people who needed it, old elderly people and people with disabilities. So what had happened was from the end of 2019 to early 2020's winter, so I delivered to people there throughout the whole time, firewood. Then COVID came, and we dealt with that through the summer of 2020 and into the fall. So earlier last year in 2021, it's so weird. It felt like time just went by so fast, like we weren't really, like I think the country was kind of like in a daze, like that COVID days, the timeline just seems like to all mesh together. But in early 2021, in January 2021, I started delivering firewood again. The winter came around again, and all the old people that I used to deliver to earlier that year were all gone. They had all passed away from COVID. And it didn't really hit me till then, because I was busy throughout that whole year. I didn't really stop to really think about it until 2021 came around, and I started doing the firewood again, and that's when it hit me. It's when it really the weight of it all, because I didn't really stop and slow down and see. I think I just blocked it out, because the program had to keep going, and I was the face of it, and I was the person that started it. I was the one to keep it going, and then just the team that I had grew, the crew that I had grew, and and I had a really good friend of mine that's helping me maintain all of it. It really bogged me down. I fell into depression because everybody was with me during that COVID time. It was great because I had their help, and we're helping people. But it kind of took me back full circle, back to where I began the program, to starting to help these old people I would talk to. Like, I would take firewood to their house. They would give me coffee, even though it was like the coffee's been sitting on the stove for like 3 days. But we still drank coffee, and I still talked to them in our language. And very few people in our community speak the language still. And I'm one of those people that can still speak the language. And they were so appreciative of that, if someone would come by. And the old people, they had so many questions. They have no filter. They're old, yeah. They would ask me questions like, where are all those other artists that come by and take our pictures? Where are all those others that paint pictures of us or put us in their videos? Where are they now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When they're needed, where are they?
Exactly.
And they'd be like, they're like, you're here. She's like, and I would try to explain to them. I said, there's a stay-at-home order, and people have to stay home. And I said, everybody has things going on in their life. Everybody has a life, and artists are just people. They're just people. They may have a artistic quality and a creative, out of this world creativity, but they're still just people.
Yeah, sometimes they have children too, or like me, my elderly mother lives with us, and the fear that we go out there and bring it home, to our children or to our elderly. So that's part of it too, that we got caught up in the fear. But thanks to people in our community like you, like yourself, some of us did go out and help others. And we're so thankful that you went out of your way to help your community. As an artist too, a lot of artists are not working. We're not doing shows, we're not making money, and we have to go back into our old jobs, go back into, trying to figure it out how we're going to put food on the table. So where are you now with your art? I mean, you're going to make a new record, or you're in the process in the studio? We can look forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, the music's already done. It's been done for
awesome.
It's been done for like 2 years.
Oh, okay.
COVID lasted 2 years. So I have a lot of film projects. We're starting a rodeo this year. I do a lot of script writing. I do a lot of photography. I got this Muppet TV show that we're starting. I work with a lot of cowboys, wranglers, horse wranglers. So I do a lot of things. Also, I started speaking, like public speaking, I guess. They call it motivational speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But I do this speech where last year I talked to a lot of politicians and a lot of community agents, I guess. And they weren't very honest. They wouldn't say things that they knew were true. And that really bothered me. Because last year in November and December, I kind of did a little talking tour, and people wanted to hear what I wanted to say. They're like, tell us why. And then they were mostly the educators, and they're very private and close conferences I did. But a lot of things that I said, they were like, man, that's crazy, because you say exactly what we think.
Mm-hmm.
But you have the fortitude to say it. And I said, when I first got back to Navajo Nation, I had this project where I wanted to archive our language and some of our songs and some of our prayers and our ceremonies. This was about 4 years ago, and at the time the person in charge on the reservation was like, no, we're not going to do that. That's against our culture. It's taboo. You can't do that. And fast forward, after COVID came through and all the old people passed away, the majority of them, now it's gone. Now that knowledge and that education is gone. And now a few people come back to me like, all right, can you do this program now? I said, it's too late. At the time, we had like 30% of our culture left. Now we have 15. There's no way we can get back what we lost.
Mm-hmm.
And man, there's the speeches I say. I mean, it's nothing new. It's just people think it is. I want to say it because you're talking about, like finding out who you are, your place in this world as an artist, as a person. Because I believe, it's like when I talk to a lot of these, when I was doing my speeches, I said the reason why the Native American population, the Native American and the Indian reservations were not progressing, we're not flourishing, is because we instill in our children, our youth, that we're victims. That the Native American people are victims. I said, if you live with that victim mentality through your whole life, you'll never rise up against anything.
Mm-hmm. You got to have this survival. I always say we are survivors of what happened. We're not victims, we're survivors.
Yeah, but even survivors, I'm like, as a survivor, no one owes you anything.
Mm-hmm.
You should get up in the morning, go to work that you found yourself, and provide for your family.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And I said, because one thing that I found really disturbing was when I was delivering fire with the people, is I would go to these people's homes and they would have like 5 or 6 teenagers or young adults there not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't even help me take the woods off. Mm-hmm. And I said, and the other disparity I come across is I would put out a job posting for my program here, and it's very physical. At the time, it was very physically, firewood when we were hauling water at the same time. And I put out job openings, and I had 12 respondents 11 of those were women and one guy came.
Wow.
And I was like, where, something's wrong here. Like, why? I said, maybe it's not wrong. It's just an eye-opening thing to where the women here want to work more than the men. I said, I was asking people around, the people, I said, why aren't you, the guys I knew in the community, I was like, why aren't you applying for this job? She says, well, you know, I got a warrant, or, you know, or my baby mama doesn't get jealous, I'm not at home. I said, well, how are you going to get food?
Provide for you.
To provide, yeah. If jealousy is holding you back. And it's the victim mentality. You know, it's, you can go from a victim or a survivor.
We
If
have
you want to be a victim all your, if you want to be a victim all your life, man, then you can expect handouts. And
well,
I think that's important. I think we got to do that. You know, the government owes us for what they've done to us, but we owe it to ourselves to lift ourselves up. You know, you get up. If you're going to preach Native American spirituality and the old way of life, then live it.
Exactly. My last interview was with Jolene Brown, the Native Hoop magazine, and we have to inspire our youth. You know, we have elders now having drug addiction, alcohol addiction. You know, my grandmother never touched alcohol. You know, my grandmother never did drugs. But now this generation, we are dealing with grandparents doing meth, grandparents doing drugs, grandparents not helping. Of course, that's a whole other theme. As the reason I wanted to do this podcast, just like Jolene Brown is doing Native Hoop, is to bring that good side, that positive side of our youth. You know, you need to follow your dreams. You need to stay close to the Creator, stay close to the earth, honor the ceremonies, understand that your dream, you're the only person that can see it until you make it come true. Then when you make it come true, then everybody else can see it. So it's a very kind of a lone journey that goes on when you want to become something, not only as an artist, as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a nurse. You know, the dream is yours first until you make it real. With you are now a discovered artist. You have this different projects coming up. You are an inspiration to young people. You're an inspiration to me that I'm probably older than you, to continue to do more. I think sometimes we become lazy and complacent, and we stay at home watching TV when we can do so much more for our people. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. You didn't have to. You were so open and so humble about it. Thank you so much. What is the 666 up here? I know it has to have some sort of meaning.
Oh, it's my buddy's company.
Oh, okay.
They have the sweater. He owns a heavy metal shop in Salt Lake.
Oh, okay.
He always gives me stuff. So I'm always wearing it because I need a hat for shade outside. Yeah.
So tell me about your next project. You have an album coming up. What's the name of the album?
The name of the album is Thunder Roads.
Thunder Roads.
It's a mix of so many different genres because I have different people on there, different guest artists. But it's really, you know, I really started learning how to sing better. So there's a lot of songs on there where I stretch my, dynamics and my vocals, and just growing as a songwriter as well. You know, people always ask me, how do I really get to know you? I say, well, listen to my songs. It's the best way to get to know me. Because everything I write about, everything I sing about is I lived it.
It's a personal discovery.
Yeah. So I'd rather have a person listen to my music than me tell them about myself. You know, it's more, I mean, just anything I do, the art that I create speaks more about me than I can tell you from my own mouth. You know, it's you know, artists create things. It's windows into their souls. That's what it is. Doorways into their experiences, their emotions. And that's what we do. I mean, as artists, that's what we do. We create windows and doorways for people to peek through or walk into, to invite them in to see what we've done, see if they like it. And if they don't, they can only walk back out. You know, it's all we can do is create things for people to connect to or not. And I got a lot of projects coming up, and music is one of them.
You're so versatile. You're a versatile artist. You know, you do photography, you do screenplays, you write. Where you see where you see yourself in 5 years from now? What is the main goal in the end? Example, myself, I want to write songs for other singers. And that would be my dream, to stay home and compose and just let somebody else go on the road and sing it. What is your long-term goal with all this, with the screenplays, with the movies, the program? I mean, what is your dream? Become a producer?
My dream at the end of all this in 5 years is to walk away from it and let it still be going.
All right.
Yeah, so that's why I am teaching all these people underneath that work with me, so they can take it over. So I don't need to be here. So then I can go back and just live off the grid with my family, you know, and just be. Because I like to work with metal too, so I do blacksmithing. So, and I also like to work on vehicles, and I like to work with horses. So it's just that life is that's my goal, is to walk away from all this and have everybody thriving, and they don't need me.
I think we will always need Pete Sands. How your name came about, Sands?
It's just something I was on. It's just grew up with it. It's just something I was on. Yeah.
You mean the sand, like in the desert, or you mean like?
Yeah, it's just my name.
Oh, it is your name. I didn't know it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so you have a new record coming out. Any TV shows that we should be looking for that you're going to be part of?
We might. I don't want to say too much because I'll get in trouble.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we should just be attentive to your website to let us know the shows that you're coming out and stuff, and the release of your record. We're looking forward to it. I love your voice. I think you really bring something so original to our Native American music community. You know, when we hear you, we know it's you, which I think is the sign of a real singer. When you can hear their voice and you know that's, you know, Pete, and that's so and so. That's, you know, that's when you know you have a really original singer, and you are that kind of singer. When we hear your voice, we know it's you. It's a definite. It's like, you know, like hearing Ozzy Osbourne, we know it's Ozzy Osbourne. So we know it's you. And you're so original. Your voice is so haunting, so beautiful. I wish you the best of success with your new record. We love seeing you grow. We love seeing everything that you have done for your people. Makes us proud to be part of the same community that you are, the music community and the art community. So thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me be part of this.
Thank you for all the work you did with our Travel Nations. And thank you And we love your music. Keep going. We'll follow you.
Hear a bunch of new tunes. Y'all about to hear a bunch of new tunes soon, so I hope you all like it still.
Oh, it'd be exciting. I know it'd be exciting. Your stories, you live them, and we can relate. We can relate to them. That's what, when I first heard you, that's what it drew me to you. I'm very king of lyrics and stories. I don't like people singing about stuff that it seemed like the story is not going anywhere. But with you, you take us in a journey when you're singing. We're walking with you. We're walking through the experience that you're singing about. And that's what makes you so special. So thank you. Thank you for your humbleness and your talent. And thank you for this interview.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Blessings, brother. I will let you know when we put the video up. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Blessings.
Blessings.